Vortex chain and sprocket kit going on the 300 today. We're back in my buddy's garage. Today I'm replacing my front and rear sprockets and the chain as well. I've got a chain and sprocket kit from Vortex. I'm gonna be going 2 up in the rear. Hopefully that'll give me a little more low end torque. Help me kick up these wheelies a little easier. First thing I'm gonna do is get this chain out and wash it up because I know it is covered in grease. So it's our little master link. I'm gonna leave it here to dry. In the meantime, we're gonna start taking her apart. All right, so first things first, I wanna get that front sprocket off. We're gonna have to get this cover off and probably get your shifter out of the way. Yeah. Now the front sprocket cover is held on by 2 8mm bolts. All right, next I'm gonna be removing this metal piece right here, and it looks like this is held on. And it looks like this is held on by 3 8mm bolts. Man, is this shit dirty. Top 2 bolts are the same length, the bottom one's longer. Oy, adios míos. I just discovered in order to get this piece off, you're gonna have to take off your whole shifter peg from this piece right here, and then this should slide off. And this bolt is gonna be a 10mm. And wrench away. Oh, there we go. And now this piece should just slide right off nice and easy. It is going to be attached up here by this electrical connection. Go ahead and toss it up out of the way somewhere. And there's our sprocket. The washer behind the front sprocket nut is flared up right there. And she bends out real easy. Oh, Papa Brandon's home. Papa Brando in the Mustang EV. It's a GT, don't get it fucking twisted. So I threw the bike up on the stand, and I've got my hammer back here going through my tire, resting on both sides of the swing arm, and we're gonna break this front sprocket bolt loose. My 27mm socket seems to fit, and we got a baby. It's Papa Brando. All right, I had to break out the impact to get this bad boy off. Let's hope it gets her done. God damn, she didn't even budge. What's going on here? The impact not working. Looks like we probably need to heat this thing up. Shout out to Ryan. Just let me borrow his DeWalt impact, big boy. I already know this boy's about to rip this nut off. I also want to mention the reason that I am starting with the front sprocket. I'm gonna rest something on top of the swing arm in between my wheel so it can't move, and that should be enough to hold the sprocket still while I crank her off. I got my hammer tucked in through there. That should hold the wheel nice and tight. Holy shit. It's like butter. Yeah, there she is. And then in order to get this sprocket off, we're gonna have to loosen up the axle back here and slide the wheel forward, and then the chain will be loose enough and we could just slide this sprocket off. And break that axle nut loose. Alright, so now I'm gonna just break these alignment nuts loose on the back so I can scoot the wheel forward and get that front sprocket off. Take our hammer out, and this wheel should move forward, no problem. Oh yeah, just look at all that slack in the chain now. There she is. Alright, so I just got this sprocket cleaned up, and I just wanted to make a note of something, because this should be the factory sprocket. I believe this is a 14 tooth. 1, 2, 3, 13, 14. The Vortex chain and sprocket kit is supposed to be 1 down in the front and 2 up in the rear from stock. They went and sent me a 14 tooth, so maybe this isn't a factory front sprocket, but just for note, we're keeping it the same in the front, and the back should be 43 for what I got on there right now. With the Vortex, the back is 45. Same front, 2 up in the back. When you pull the rear axle out, get ready for your tie to drop. And get ready for everything else to fall apart. Alright, and now we can get this chain here off this rear sprocket, and this wheel should just come right out. Your rear brake caliper, just go ahead and get that out of the way and move it to a good place. It's gonna be my first time using one of these chain breaker tool. This is a cheap set off of Amazon. I saw the Motion Pro and I just couldn't justify that price tag, so we'll see if this one can get the job done for us. Normally you gotta grind down the end of the pin and then go ahead and push it through, but I'm gonna give it a go anyways. Oh yeah, she's moving now. Can see the pin starting to poke through on this side. Amen. That's what I'm talking about right there. That's how you break a chain without no grinder. Oh yeah. And that right there is a disassembled chain and sprocket. Time to get all the new stuff on. My next victim is gonna be this sprocket. You can see 42, that means it's a 42 tooth sprocket. And we're going up to 45, so it's actually gonna be same count up in the front and 3 up in the back. The 9/16 is what's gonna fit best for these little nuts. Shout out to my man Ryan for letting me borrow his impact. I think it's badass. I might keep this, hang it up in my room. And you can see here, this is a 45 tooth. I'm gonna keep this Vortex logo facing the outside. Perfect fit right there, I like that. These nuts don't want to go on so easy with that Loctite. Still sitting in there. Alright, so I was about to just throw the nuts back on and screw them down with the big old torque gun, but I know I'm not going to have the rear wheel off again for a good while, so I'm going to be using this Permatex thread sealant. It's high temp. Probably don't need anything this crazy, but it's all I got at the moment, so that's what we're using. I go around these in a crisscross formation or star pattern, whatever you want to call it, just to make sure the sprocket seats evenly. Alright, so these nuts should be torqued down to 44 foot-pounds. Grab your torque wrench, go ahead and set her to 44. That would be 44 right there. I like to go a pound or two higher though, just to be better than everybody else. And same as I did with the impact, I'm gonna go in a star formation. Now obviously your sprocket's gonna go on the left side. That's what I didn't want. So there's actually a little notch for your brake caliper assembly to slide right into. And then it gets secured down through the axle. Very nice Kawasaki, very nice. And once you get that brake disc in there, you want to hold that position. That is not easy to get in there. There she is. Go ahead and throw that guide plate back on if it fell off. Don't even worry about your cotter pin until you torque the axle nut down. All right, so rear rail is back on in place. It's not aligned properly just yet. I'm leaving it loose. Gonna go to the front sprocket and get that done.
All right, let's see if this is all about.
So there we are, we got 14 right there. It's the 14 teeth. Our groove right here. It's gonna go sit on the inside because that's how our last sprocket came off. Grab your sprocket washer. Go ahead and throw that on top. And make sure it seats down. And your front sprocket nut, of course. Go ahead and throw that on. Honestly, torquing this front sprocket nut down is gonna have to wait till we got the chain on again, because now there's no force that's gonna hold this sprocket from moving unless I jam a chain in there, which I don't really want to do. So I'll get that torque down once we get the chain on. And next I'm grabbing my master link and gonna put that onto the chain, connect them. That should finish the chain. Looking pretty damn good, honestly. So go ahead and take all your hardware, and I'm just gonna start with putting the O-rings on. So the first two O-rings will just go right over top like this. And next up, before we get those last two O-rings on, we're gonna have to grease this up, grease both of these pins up, and grease up the inserts on the chain for where these pins are gonna go through. Take your grease, nice and mixed up, and tear the slightest hole so we got good control over it. And this stuff is bound to just get everywhere, so don't be afraid of it. Alright, we got those all greased up now. I'm liking how that's looking, so now I'm about to grease up the inserts on the chain. And you just want to fill those suckers up. Alright, grab your master link again and go ahead and connect the chain with those O-rings on and the grease up. Go ahead and connect the chain. Nice sloppy mess. Alright, both pins are through. We got our O-rings on. Now grab your last two O-rings and you're just gonna put them right on top of those pins. Lastly, grab your plate that goes over top. Go ahead and seat it on there. You're gonna have to press it on with that chain breaker tool. But instead of a chain breaker, I'm gonna put the press plate attachment on. I think I've finally got this tool figured out. We got this plate over here with the two slots. This is where my pins are gonna go through on the master link. And then this side right here, it's gonna line up on the back side and it's gonna push it all together. So you just want to make sure you line those pins up with your holes on each side here. And this plate here can slide, so just watch that. Also gonna take my wrench here to go ahead and tighten it down. So I highly suggest, if you're having problems, go ahead and move it back here to the rear sprocket. Kind of holds it in place a little better, just makes it a little easier. When I had the master link in the previous spot, this plate in particular kept wanting to slide around. Didn't stay lined up with the pins, so you know, obviously then the pins can't push through. That's not good, so. I've got a feeling it's getting a little close. All right, so I'm gonna take my calipers and measure the width of the surrounding links around the master link, just to get a reference where we should be. 17.33, 17.33, 17.33.
They didn't even leave the hardware for the
17.32. All right, so we're gonna get in between 17.3, 17.4. That should be good.
Any piece of plate is helpful hardware tools.
All right, we're getting there. 17.93.
Well, it was my house, not have nuts.
17.8.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I need it slightly bigger.
That's what they all say.
I'm here to eat ass. And that's it.
17.52. We're getting real close. 17.37. I'm happy with that. That's where we'll leave her. Next step's gonna be to rivet these pins, and the chain will be fully installed. Then we'll just work on chain slack and torquing everything down and be all done. All right, so in order to configure this tool for the riveting operation, I'm gonna assume this back plate stays on. We're just gonna have to switch something up in here. So this piece is labeled riveter, so I'd believe that it's gonna come in use here. All right, take our little riveting pin, and I assume the spring's gonna go over top of it. Probably not good of me to keep assuming things, but gotta get it done somehow. Alright, now how far do we want this rivet tool to stick out? Probably not any more than is necessary, which I'd say is about right there. Alright, so I was wrong about this, leaving this back press plate on. You're gonna wanna take this little anvil piece, actually. That's gonna sit on the back of your chain on the pin. So it's gonna go in place of this press plate. Just in there, just like that. And there's our riveting tool right there. And that should be all we need. Before I go ahead and rivet these pins down, I'm going to actually take a look and see what they're measuring at. 5.3 millimeters. 5.27. Now here on this set of instructions that came from Vortex, diameter should be 5.6 millimeter to 5.8 millimeter. So that's what we're gonna go ahead and flare it down to. .19, 5.2. I don't know how they went down, but we're still gonna rivet it up to 5.6. Sweet. That top one is just below 5.6. We're reading 5.57. I'm happy with that, so I'm gonna leave that there. This bottom one though is at 5.44, so I'm gonna give that one a little bit more beans. And I just want y'all to keep in mind, do very small increments with this. You don't want to crack your pins. I've taken this tool on and off many times, probably more than I'm gonna show in the video. So just take your time with it, get the specs right, you'll be good. These are both just below 5.6. This one's reading 5.58, 5.59. And this one here, 5.59, 5.8. So I'm happy with that. That's about it for the chain install. I can go ahead and torque the front sprocket down now. Your front sprocket nut should be torqued down to 93.7 foot-pounds. I'm just gonna go to 94 and 95, why not? So a 27mm socket will fit your front sprocket nut. Don't forget to throw something on your swing arm in between the rear wheel to hold the chain from moving as you torque this down. There it is, 95 foot-pounds torqued down. Go ahead and remove your stopper. Now all I have left to do on this is align the chain and sprocket and torque the rear axle down, and that'll be about it. And throw the plastics back on up there. Yeah, that will wrap up our install. Keep this in mind when aligning your sprocket and your chain, but your chain slack should be 0.8 to 1.2 inches. So just get somewhere in between that range and it'll be good. The first thing I'm gonna do when trying to get my chain and sprocket aligned properly, I'm gonna back these nuts off a bit and just push your tire as far forward as you can, just so you have plenty of chain slack, because tightening this nut right against the block here is gonna bring that wheel back and tighten your chain slack. So it's a lot easier to do it that way. Start off with a lot of slack. Go ahead and focus on getting these marks on each side somewhat close to the same marking. So you can see here there's a big plus in the middle. So this smaller nut here on the outside is basically going to be your locking nut. This bigger nut up here is going to be what moves your wheel back and forth with your chain and sprocket. So as you tighten this down, you can watch this marking up here move. Alright, so I've got my markings lined up on each side to the exact same position. So that's how I know that my chain and sprocket is aligned. Next, I'm going to check this chain slack, and if it needs to get tighter, I'll just move those markings a little bit more. Alright, I've got my ruler here. The chain slack should be in between 0.8 to 1.2 inches. I'd prefer that to be on the higher end, just because it's gonna put less wear on your chain being looser. So right now we can see it's sitting at about 3 at that rivet link. Ooh, got damn near 3 inches of slack there. That ain't no bueno. Alright, so I'm gonna tighten these nuts down again, trying to keep the marking in the same position on both sides, just to bring that chain slack up and keep the sprocket and chain aligned. Alright, gonna give her another check here. Sitting at 2, almost on the dot there, coming up just past 1. I really like that amount of chain slack there, so I'm going to tighten those lock nuts down, make sure it don't go nowhere, and that'll lock your chain in. To finish up this install, I'm gonna torque the rear axle nut down and recheck the chain slack, see how it's looking, and should be good to go. If you got your bike on the rear stand, just go ahead and put it down on the ground. It's gonna make tightening this axle nut down just that much easier. 24mm socket for your rear axle nut, 72 foot-pounds of torque. Do 74, why not? And there's our 74. You're gonna want to line up this hole on the end of the axle so you can slide your cotter pin through. And that is gonna wrap up the chain and sprocket kit from Vortex install. Thank you all for watching. Let me know if you have any other questions in the comments. Of course, I'm gonna throw all this stuff back on. But yeah, thank you guys for watching.